Hello everyone. Today I wanted to find out just exactly how waterproof or not waterproof these Leitner GearPODs in fact are. All right, you ready for this? Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Motoring Adventures. I'm Preston. I just want to start out by saying I've had this Leitner Designs ACS forged bed rack now for a few months, and I have really been happy with it. I've had it out on the trail a few times and gone camping in it with the Roofnest Condor 2 XL, and it has done nothing but really impress me. With that said, these GearPODs that came with it aren't exactly said to be waterproof. In fact, Leitner says it on their website when you buy these that they are in fact not waterproof, and that if you want to keep any sensitive items away from getting wet, that you need to store them in some sort of waterproof container inside this. I guess the idea is these are really good at keeping out the elements for the most part, but they aren't 100% waterproof. But with that said, these things do come with a weather strip around the edges of the lid to help keep out water and moisture and the elements. And from my observations so far, it's been mixed. This larger GearPOD, this GearPOD XL, actually does excellent. But I found that the other two aren't as watertight. In fact, they are far from it, which is what's kind of shocked me. The last few rainstorms we've had, this sits outside and it's exposed to the elements, so if we have an overnight heavy downpour or thunderstorm, everything out here gets wet. And I've noticed there has been a lot of water collecting inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a GoPro camera inside each of these and spray this down with a high pressure washer, and hopefully get to see exactly where the water is leaking in from. I also do need to point out, since I bought this thing used, the previous owner did a couple of modifications to it. One, he added the brackets to this that hold a max tracks to the back side, and to do that you have to drill holes into this. Now, I haven't installed those yet just because I haven't had a chance to get some max tracks, but I did want to seal them in the meantime, and I used some Gorilla Tape actually on the outside. It actually has been quite effective. It hasn't let any water or dust or anything in, and it's hardly noticeable. He also added this little outlet here with some wiring, so you could plug in like a jackery or a power supply or inverter inside here and access it from the outside. I guess you could plug in, I think the purpose being to plug in some solar panels, and you can power that in here and keep that thing out of the elements. But just want to point that out. It's not exactly a stock GearPOD. And if anything, I would think this one would leak instead of the others, because it does look like this lip here is a little bit maybe warped, but it does have a very good seal. In fact, it looks like he's added a different seal, or maybe this is the old seal, but. Okay, so the first one I want to test out is the front side GearPOD here. This is the one that's given me the most leakage. I have here my GoPro and a headlamp to give it some light. Hello everyone. Let's face it towards the back. There's a couple washers. This will provide sufficient lighting. All right. Here goes nothing. All right, you ready for this? All right, well, there's definitely some water in there. All right, let's around shine this light here. You can see water is collected right where the GoPro's, right in front of the GoPro. And I think from past times opening that something up here is the culprit. You can see here's the weather stripping, which is actually a different weather stripping than the GearPOD Excel has. I'm not sure if they switched when they went from, you know, the previous generation to this one. You can see that it's not the smoothest surface for it to attach to, but so that's the amount of water. That's the amount of water that's been let in here. You know, your items would definitely get wet. If you had like sensitive electrical, if you had sensitive electrical items in here, they would most likely get wet. I would not suggest putting them in here unless you had most of the most important connectors water sealed. Okay, that side's done. Let's, well, some water got into this while that was being sprayed, so let me clear some of that out. All right. All right, let's see how this side did. Well, there's a little bit on the left side, but there actually wasn't a whole lot until I opened it and then it dripped. So, like I said, this side does a little better than this one. You know, I am also curious to see if this Roofnest has any water intrusion, because I've noticed that there is no weather stripping around the lid of the Roofnest Condor 2 XL. Now, if you get the Overland one, it is more watertight, and people say it hasn't been an issue, but so I think when I'm done testing out these GearPODs, I'll go ahead and open up the Roofnest and see if there's any water intrusion there as well. So we're gonna go ahead and shut this. All right, GearPOD XL. Oh! Well, a lot of water dripped in from the hinges here, but I think before that it was actually pretty dry in here. Right, just to show you, yeah, a lot of this water was what's dripped in from the hinges. If they could put some sort of like rubber seal around there, that might help, you know, get the water to go that way when you open it. Just realize that, you know, these can get water in them or dirt in them. In fact, I don't think this thing, on dusty trails, everything in here is not dusty when I open it. So, you know, I think with just a little bit of modification, you can make this thing pretty well watertight. At least mostly dust tight. If they just put just a little bit more R&D into it, just, or maybe, I don't know, it was too much more to do that. But when you're paying for these, I mean, these are, I wouldn't consider these cheap products by any means, even though I got these used at a decent price, about half of what you would pay for it new. It'd be kind of nice to know that you can, keep items in here pretty much weather tight. I mean, if a little bit of water gets in, no big deal. But I mean, it's the same way with tonneau covers. I mean, they're all not necessarily exactly watertight. Most truck beds have gaps around the tailgate, and they tell you about that. But for the most part, they do keep things dry. Everything that's not right around the edges usually stays pretty dry. It's probably the same thing here. As long as it's not right by the edge, or if you got things in the way, like we got the little bags that come with the gear, that you can get with the GearPODs. I forget the name. But they're the Leitner's proprietary bags that are made to fit in here. Like this can hold 3 of them. These, whatever these are called. But these are made to go right in there. Be curious to see. I mean, these are pretty well sealed. They have like a seal around the zipper, but I would not trust these to keeping things just completely dry. Okay, so now my curiosity is piqued. So I'm gonna test that out right now. I'm gonna put this bag, I believe it's called the GearBAG, and I'm gonna put the light inside here, as well as the GoPro. And we're gonna see if any water gets in here. Maybe even put like a dry piece of clothing or something. Actually, so it looks like the water is just coming in from up here. You can see the front part's wet, but it actually, oh, what do you know? Everything's dry inside here. Towel's completely dry. So this might do a pretty decent job of keeping maybe clothes or other miscellaneous items dry and out of the elements. That's probably why they include these with the GearPODs, because they're aware. I think Leitner's aware that these, aren't sealed. I mean, that's what they say. So, but it is good to know whether this does help keep the water out. And I don't know if it's like, if you got just that minor leak, everything here might be just fine. But if water does get around the zipper and if it just gets absolutely soaked and maybe hours and hours of driving through heavy water or river crossings or what have you, then it might not, then things might get wet in there, but I doubt they'll get extremely wet. Now I'm going to open up the roof nest here and see if, now that everything's soaked around the edges of it, I'm curious how wet it does get or does not get. All right, now I've opened the tent. Kind of see how wet it got, and as you can see, that it actually, it's oh, by the way, the issue I had with the mouse, where this gap here, the mouse was able to get in. One of the representatives of Roofnest said this isn't just supposed to be tucked like this. I was supposed to pull this. You see it has this little like bungee here. This is supposed to go around this hook, I believe. That does kind of hold that tighter. I mean, there's still a somewhat of a way something can get in there. Something smaller like a bug or a spider could probably still get in there, but you do have a way to seal, Velcro seal that, and there is a thing on the inside. So actually, if you're gonna do this, yeah, this still does not look like a very good way to seal that. I don't have to play around with that some more, but let's hop on in here and see if anything's wet. I'm mostly curious with that side there, because that's where I could actually feel water. There's no water intrusion here at all. The mattress is dry. Okay. And that is dry. This is what I could feel was wet on the other side when I sprayed up this way. And you can see there's no intrusion there. It's completely dry. Yep, it's dry. So kudos to Roofnest. Even though this isn't completely sealed, even though it's not completely sealed like the Overland is, it looks like it really isn't that much of an issue, that it protects it enough, I guess, to where it doesn't get in and soak your tent. And if you think about it, you know, if you put this thing away when it's raining, I mean, you probably won't get water in like the sleeping area, but all of the fabric and everything will be wet on the outside anyway. And that's probably the only thing that's exposed. The only thing I worry about is when you fold this part up and it folds that way, that part of the bottom of the mattress, the bottom of the mattress becomes exposed, but then it gets covered up by the lid. All right, as you can see here, this is the bottom of the mattress. This is the front platform that folds out, and here's your main platform. This could potentially get wet, like it just got wet right there. In fact, you can see a lot of dust is right here, but I guess it's sealed enough where that's not going to really make much of a difference. So what I think I'll do is probably try replacing the weather stripping on these, or remounting them, trying to keep the pressure as evenly as possible, possibly, you know, rotating which one I fasten down on the set of fasteners here, kind of to apply even pressure to it. That way you just know that it's as secure as can be, although you're not really fastening to the plastic itself. It's attached to a metal bracket on each end. But overall, I am still really happy with this Leitner Designs ACS forged bed rack. Super high quality bed rack. It's super strong, super modular. I can totally rearrange how I want to do the GearPODs or all the accessories on here. I hope you found this useful. If you did, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.